Hey everyone, your friendly neighborhood school psych nerd here, and I've got a two-part video series for you guys on how to use some tricks in Microsoft Word to help make your psychological reports a little bit easier to write, take a little bit less time, and so that you can focus on having kind of just the high-quality content in your report without having to worry too much about formatting or typing a bunch of repetitive text. So this is going to be a two-part video series, and at the end of it you'll have a really cool report template like this one that has kind of some built-in features that'll make your life a little easier. So in the first part of the video, let me demo for you some of the stuff that we're going to do. In the first part of the video, I'm going to show you how to use quick parts to allow you to kind of pull up large chunks of prefabricated text. So if I was doing an initial report, you can see that I've kind of highlighted this reason for referral section, and I can just start typing the word initial. Before I'm even done, I've got a little pop-up there that makes it so that when I hit enter, we get a whole big chunk of kind of prefabricated text without having to worry about typing all of that out or pulling it from another report and then wiping it clean of all the other students' details, which is kind of nice. In the second part of the video, I'm going to show you how to create these little grayed out fields you can see here. So these fields will allow you to do things like up here at the top where it says student name, I can just type the student's name in this little box, and then as soon as I click off of it, anywhere that that student's name appears in the rest of the report has automatically populated to the entire rest of the document. And if I made a mistake or if I want to change the name or anything like that, it's as easy as just changing it once in the report. And as soon as I click off of that box, you'll notice that all of the other areas that that name appears in the report have kind of automatically fixed themselves as well. So those are kind of the tricks that I'm going to show you how to use. And it's important, I think, when we're starting a project like this where we're trying to improve a system or a process to kind of think about like how much time can we use on this before we're spending more time than we're saving on fixing it. So fortunately, the fine folks over at the webcomic XKCD have already created this great graphic for us, which allows us to kind of look at it. So I don't know about you, but I write reports like weekly or depending on the week, sometimes daily, right? And how much time I'm hoping to help you shave off of your report writing is somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour for each report. So kind of looking at this chart, we can see that kind of at the minimum doing this is going to save you about 5 days, and at the maximum it's going to save you about 2 months worth of your time. So the good news is even though this takes a little while to set up, you could probably spend an afternoon or even a whole day if you really want to focus on this. But the good news is you can save yourself between a week or 2 months worth of time to do kind of other more relevant things than write psych reports. So I definitely think that it's an endeavor worth doing. So that being said, nothing left but to just go ahead and get started. So in the first part, we are going to make our template, and then we are going to make the quick parts that we are going to use to kind of quickly populate the document. The good news is that this is probably the least technically involved part of the process, and you can stop after this if you want. You know, if you're like, just the quick parts is all I need, then you can kind of stop and not get into kind of the more technical stuff if you don't want to. But the first part of this process is going to be creating a blank Word document to get us started. So I have already prepared one right here. And this is eventually going to be our document template that we are using. Doesn't look like one right now though, so we want to get it ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is like maybe adjust the formatting in some way. I don't know about you, I kind of like narrow margins on my psych reports because I have a lot to say and I want it to take as little paper as possible. The next thing that you might want to do is you've probably got some cool letterhead that your report has in it. So I'm going to go to just like a sample of an old report that I've written and kind of grab the letterhead from the report. I'm going to copy it by hitting Control-C. I'm going to pop back over to my blank Word document. I'm just going to paste it in, and of course it's going to have formatting problems, which is a little bit of a bummer. So I'll fix that real quick. And there you go. Through the magic of editing, I fixed that problem immediately. So now that we've got our cool letterhead, we may want to change like kind of the paragraph formatting. So I like to go in here and under our line spacing options, I like to say that we're not going to add space after paragraphs of the same style. That's just something that I like to do. And then also you're probably going to have some stuff that appears in every report, like this title. So I'll grab that, Control C, just bring it over. It's maybe not formatted exactly right, so I'm going to bring that down right there, change the formatting here, don't want it bold, I just want it italicized. That's actually not even the same font as it was in the other report for some reason, so I'm going to change that. There we go, no harm done. Let's look back over at my other report, see what comes next. Oh yeah, this table, we definitely want that, so I'm going to take that table, copy it, bring it over. Maybe add some space here. Yeah, looking good. What else is over there? Okay, well, first of all, probably ought to delete all of this confidential student information out of that table. Come over here, grab this section of my assessment components. Perfect. Maybe through the magic of editing, I will add all of the different reports that, or all of the different assessment tools that I might use in any given assessment, so that I can just take those out and delete them. There we go. Thank you, magic of editing. Let's see what else we've got. This reason for referral is usually what I write next, and I definitely want to have a reason for referral section, but it's going to probably be somewhat more individualized for each report here. So I am going to put that in here, give it that nice format. I'm actually going to add space because that'll help make it more consistent. I'm going to go ahead and bold that, give it oh, there we go, heading 1, that's what I wanted. And then underneath that, I am going to, back in our normal style up here, just put insert info here. And that is the perfect place for one of those quick parts that we are going to do later. If there's something that like should be customized more than just like deleting stuff, that is where we want to do that. So what comes next in my old reports? Background information. Again, gonna be a little bit more customized. So I'll go ahead and leave space for it. There we go. So what's next? In my sample report, the next thing that happens is like an academic history. So that's, again, kind of going to be more individualized, but I've just realized that this top bit is just a really good kind of generic description of the MTSS process, and then the student's data comes after these little subheadings. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a quick read, make absolutely sure that there's no information in here directly pertaining to this individual student. There is not. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it over here, and I am just going to grab this entire chunk from the academic history and school performance, and I'm just going to leave my little header sections. So tier 1 core. And then we'll just do another insert info here. Highlight that red so that I know to come back and change it. And I'm just going to keep doing that for all of the bits of my report that will be kind of a part of the template. So I'm just going to go back, I'm going to read through this sample report, and I'm going to find just the stuff that I want to be in every single psych report that I write. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. And there we go. Through the magic of editing, I have gone through and found all of the pieces of my normal psych reports that I want to exist in the template, which ended up being that kind of top bit, all of the assessment components that I might put in, the reason for referral, all the background information, the academic history, which has this description of the MTSS process. So I did kind of proofread over that and make sure that it didn't have any individual student information in there. Then all these kind of little headers where I can actually put the student's data, some observations, a description here of kind of what psychological evaluations include, a description of the score rankings. Right here is where I typically would have like the academic achievement section or the cognitive ability testing section. So I kind of left a note for myself that like this is where the actual testing information goes. Typically have a summary, and then I typically have some recommendations. I have kind of like a nice little closeout right here, and there's a signature line for me at the bottom. Now there were a couple of places where when I was proofreading over this, I typically do like to put some individualized student information. So I highlighted those, like for example, I enjoyed the opportunity to work with. If I just put your child, that would come across sounding a little insincere. So I do like to put that student's name in there. And so I went ahead and highlighted that in yellow because that's going to be a good place for one of those fields that I told you about earlier that we're going to do in the second video of this series. Another thing that I did was I added those into like the footers for the page numbers. I like to have those have the student's last name as the title here, so I went ahead and put in surname and highlighted it in yellow, and the yellow highlights are going to remind me that I need to go and do those with fields. But again, if you don't want to do those custom fields, we don't have to do that. You can just put your child and just leave that surname bit out at the bottom if you want to, and we'll be good with that. The last thing that I wanted to add to my report template was just I like to have my test descriptions of like explaining what the whisk is kind of in an appendix at the back, because while that information is relevant, it's not always like the most relevant. So yeah, looking pretty good. We've got everything we need to kind of make this into a report template now. So because I'm feeling pretty good about this, I'm going to go ahead and click File. I'm going to click Save As, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go ahead and try and save this to the desktop. You'll see, because as soon as I try to make it a template, it'll try to save it somewhere else. So right now we want to make this just our psychological report template, and we are going to save that as type. We're going to change this drop down to a Word template, and as soon as we do that, it's going to save it to in your documents. There's a folder called Custom Word Templates, and it'll just go ahead and save it there. So we'll go ahead and click Save there, and now we have our cool psychological report template. So now we have saved this as a template. So it's going to behave a little bit differently now. So for example, when I go to my documents, in my documents, there'll be a folder called Custom Office Templates. When I go in there, you'll see that like that's where that's saved. It's saved to my Custom Office Templates. And the good news about this is we can close out of this now because we got no problem, because anytime we click on Psychological Report Template, it is going to pop us up a new Word window with a brand new document. So this is a blank document. I can type all this. I can go in here. I can delete everything. I can close this, and I can save it if I want to my desktop. And it does not matter that I just deleted all that stuff, because this is a template now. And when I pop open a template, it is always going to be that same blank template that we just used. So there you go. See, I can't delete that anymore unless I were to go in here and delete this file specifically. So that's nice. The other nice thing about this is that I can go into here. When I pop Microsoft Word open, it will allow me to go into my personal templates, and look right here, psychological report template pops up. So like basically anytime I open Word, it's going to give me the option of preparing this this template, which is pretty nice. So if I were going to make a new, I go File, New, go to my personal templates, and boom, there's psychological report template, which is very nice. Let me close out some of the instances of this. So now that we have our template, we're ready to start with making quick parts. So the first thing that we'll need in order to make our quick parts is something to turn into a quick part. So for that, we're going to go back to this sample old report that I had written, and we're going to go kind of deeper into a part of this that I hadn't used before, which is this reason for referral section. So right here, this has a lot of information in it that is still kind of tied specifically to this student, but that is okay. We're going to copy that, and we are going to bring it over into our kind of template workshop area. Added an extra tab there for some reason, so we're going to take that. And what we're going to do here is we are just going to kind of sanitize this. We're going to remove all of the information that is specific to this student. So we'll start by getting rid of this name here. And we are going to highlight this in yellow to remind us that that is a place that we need one of those variables. So name is currently well, not every student is going to be in 4th grade. So we're going to turn this into one of those areas where we need a field later too. So name is currently a grade student at this elementary school. That can stay actually, right? Because this is a template specifically for this elementary school, so we can leave that there. If you want to be able to change schools, you can absolutely turn that into a field later too. And let's go ahead and do that just so that you know how. So we will turn school into a field. Here we need another name. Was referred for evaluation by, and here is another thing that we are going to maybe turn into a field a little bit later, is we want to turn all of the gendered pronouns into, we want to highlight them in yellow. So his, if it was a female student, we would use her, but those are kind of the 2 main pronouns that we'll use there, and we'll turn that into a pronoun field that we can later fill in with any pronoun that we want, but I'm just going to put that in there like that to remind me that I need to come back and adjust that. And this one was a parent request, okay? So that's kind of the template that we're working on here, is a reason for referral section for a parent request. So was referred for evaluation by his or her parent due to concerns related to a medical diagnosis. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to do concerns related to, and the concerns are going to be different each time. So I'm going to put just kind of like a ... there, and I'm going to highlight that ... in red. Ellipsis is the word for those, by the way, if anyone was wondering. So I'm going to highlight that ellipsis in red to remind me that I need to fill in more information on that later. So specific questions asked by the IEP team at the time of the referral included. Now I could either turn this into another ellipsis or like think about the types of questions that my IEP teams typically ask. So you kind of have 2 options. I myself am going to go with how has the student responded to instructional practices put in place prior to the referral. That's always a question with my IEP teams. That kind of gets to like the review of existing intervention data and stuff. So I'm going to leave that. So I'm going to change this to what is names present level of educational performance. And again, no IEP team would like not ask that question, right? So I'm going to leave that one there. What areas, if any, should the team consider when discussing special education eligibility? Again, also something that the team definitely wants to know in every evaluation. And then what interventions, modifications, or additional resources may help? We'll change that to name, meet, and we'll need another pronoun field here. All right. Educational goals. And again, like those questions are pretty typical. If I add another question, I could always add it in here later, but like those questions I think are going to be relevant to each and every evaluation that I do, so I'm going to leave those the same. So the results from this evaluation will be used to help the decision-making process, help the team develop recommendations, intervention strategies, and goals that are appropriate for, we're going to put student name, but all that is still applicable to just about any situation, so I'm going to leave that in. Information also to be used, blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's all still good and going to be part of this quick part. So then what I've got here is to provide information that's helpful for understanding the nature of names, current functioning. Yep. All right, we got that covered. The summary section of the report located on page. There is a thing that is going to be different in every report, so I'm going to change that to 2 X's. I'm going to highlight in those in red because that will, not change the font color. That's not what I wanted to do. Highlight those in red to remind me to come back and change that specifically for this report. Use a narrative user-friendly approach, blah, 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 blah. Great. Okay, cool. So what I have here now is this section could be applied to any psychological report that I might write. And it's kind of like a basic building block sort of a thing that I might want to have. So what I am going to do is I'm going to save this as a quick part. So to get to my quick parts, I'm going to go over here to Insert, and you will see over here at this far end a place that says Quick Parts. And you'll see this in any version of Office. I think after 2013 was when they introduced this feature, so you should be able to use this in any Microsoft Office software after Office 2013. So I'm going to go ahead and click on where it says Quick Parts right here, and this gives me a couple options. AutoText, which I will show you how to use. Document properties and fields we'll talk about maybe a little bit later, but we want to go to our building blocks organizer. That's like going to be kind of a notebook full of these little chunks of text that we want to use. So what we are going to do is we're going to save this to our quick part gallery. So I'm going to highlight everything that I want to appear in that quick part. I'm going to click Save Selection to Quick Part Gallery. And we need to name this building block. This is a parent request reason for referral. So we are going to say that this, there are kind of lots of different galleries for different pieces like headers and footers and stuff like that. There are kind of 5 custom galleries. So I like to put this one in custom 1. And then we can create a category called reason for referral. And that'll allow us to kind of organize everything by where in this template it goes, right? So this one is specific to a parent request. So I'm going to call it parent request in custom 1 in our reason for referral category. And we are going to save this not in building blocks, but we are going to save it in our psychological report template. And that means that anytime you pull up psychological report template, it'll have this building block as a part of it that you can use to create it, right? So then under options, we want to make this insert content in its own paragraph. And that helps to prevent some kind of like formatting issues that you might end up having. So after that, we're going to click OK. And here we go. That's pretty great. So now what's going to happen is I will show you, I'm going to hit New. And in our personal templates, I'm going to make a new kind of psychological report thing here. And now under our reason for referral section, we can highlight that whole section, and we can come over here to Insert, Quick Parts, Building Blocks Organizer. And there'll be a whole bunch of stuff in here that kind of powers just some custom stuff that exists in like any thing, but under custom 1 right here, you'll see that we have our parent request under the category reason for referral, just like we said. And we're going to click Insert, and boom, that same block of text that we just created automatically appears. So there are lots of places that you might want to go and add this. So I personally like to use them for reasons for referral. Another place that you might want to add them, so I'll go back to kind of my sample report. We're actually going to close out of this one. Don't worry about it. Okay. Oh, actually, that is something that is worth mentioning. That dialog box that just popped up is actually something we want to take into consideration. So what's going to happen is if I try to close this document that I've created, this document 1 thing, if I try to close this, it's going to say, do you want to save the document? And I'm going to say, no, don't worry about it. Then this other document, or this other dialog box is going to pop up. It's going to say you've modified styles, building blocks, or other content that is stored in psychological report template. Do you want to save those changes to psychological report template? And what that's asking is, do we want to save that quick part to the quick part gallery like we said we were? And you do want to hit save on that. That will be a thing that you want to do. So we're going to pop back over here to our old report. The background information, that's all going to be, I think, so customized that we can't really make a quick part for it. But like another thing that I would typically do a quick part for is like, for example, this academic achievement section. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say File, New, Personal Template, Psychological Report. And this is going to pop us up another blank. Just a second here. There we go. So that's going to pop us up another blank copy of this template that we've created. So again, reason for referral, if I want to use that quick part, all I've got to do is go to Insert, Quick Part, Building Blocks Organizer, pop down here to where our gallery custom one is, and the more stuff that you fill out here, the easier it'll be to find all of your stuff. You can also delete stuff that you don't use by using this delete button here. But we're going to go ahead and insert that parent request one, and see, look, there it pops up again. We're going to go down here to our assessment results and clinical impressions section, and what I want to do is I want to add in our achievement section here. So let's see, this is an achievement section for the KTEA 3 that I went into kind of some depth on the reading. So I'm going to grab that whole section here, I'm going to copy that, I'm going to bring it over into my kind of new template document. I'm going to paste it in, and I'll need to go through and do a lot of that same kind of proofreading sort of situation. So I'll go through, I'll take out any specific references to our friend Andy here. So here's Andy, we'll change that to name. And you've seen me do this, so you can do it. So through the magic of editing, I'll go through and edit this all out. All right, so now thank you, magic of editing, we have kind of proofread all of this. So kind of some things that I did was I found name right here, changed that to a yellow field sort of a situation. I emptied this table, although the table itself can still stay. And then I kind of proofread through this reading area. So this first paragraph in my reports just kind of explains what the skills of reading involve. So not many changes were needed there. But then down here I've kind of parsed this out. So you can see highlighted in yellow are all of the places that will need to be kind of updated once in the report and then never change again. So things like the name, the his, her pronoun spot. We've also got some he, she pronoun spots down here. So that's kind of everything that's in yellow, and those are going to be things that I convert to those custom document property fields later. I've also got some stuff in blue, and I wanted to show you kind of how to parse that out. So right now we've got name score for the reading composite fell within the average range of performance. Well, not every kid's going to fall within the average range of performance, so that's going to need to change. So I have a couple options here. The first is that I can turn this blue bit into an ellipsis, kind of like I was doing before, and then highlight that red to remind me to come back through here and type within the average range of performance, right? And that is totally an acceptable way of doing this. But another thing that we could do is we could, in this same spot, type within the average range of performance, which I don't know about you. That is something I type in reports a lot. So let's turn that into a quick part. Let's turn it into AutoText. So I'm going to highlight just the phrase within the average range of performance. I'm going to go up here to quick parts, and under this AutoText situation, I'm going to click Save Selection to AutoText Gallery, right? And so the title of this indicates what word I have to type in order to get that auto text to pop up. So I'm going to type average, right? So now we're going to put that in our auto text gallery, and we are going to save this in our psychological report template. We're going to insert content only for this one. We're not going to do that in its own paragraph. We're going to put insert content only. So now that is also a quick part, just that small snippet of a phrase, right? So what I'm going to do, like let's say that we had this as an ellipsis, which is what I recommend that you do with that, is turn that into an ellipsis. But now, if the student's in the average range, what I can do is I can just go here and I can start typing the word average. And when I get about midway through, it's going to say, oh, did you mean within the average range of performance? And yes, I did. And that saves me like a bunch of keystrokes. So that'll save me some time. Indicates that their ability to complete reading tasks in the classroom is comparable to, so that's another one that we're going to turn into an ellipsis. So let's do that real quick. Another blue area here within the average range of performance. I'm going to turn that into an ellipsis, but remember, if I were to need to type that, all I have to do is just go here and start typing the word average and then just hit enter, and that'll pop right up, so that's nice. But we'll turn it into an ellipsis for the purpose of our template. Another ellipsis. So yeah, basically what's going to happen is that all of these blue areas are going to turn into ellipses that I am then going to highlight in red, as well as, kind of some longer explanation of some particular stuff. And we will highlight this ellipsis red. Yeah, and so basically all of these other areas we are just going to turn into ellipses, highlight them red, and that'll let us know to come back and type in. So let's, maybe change, make another kind of key phrase thing here, like kind of within the average range. So we might also type like below the average range of performance. And we're going to highlight that. And we're going to go up here to quick parts, auto text, save selection to AutoText Gallery, and we're going to title this one below average. And we're going to save that in our Psych report template. There we go. So now we have kind of two options for our ellipses. We can highlight it and start typing below. And as soon as you get about 3 or 4 letters in, it'll say, do you mean below the average range of performance? And the answer to that, yeah, we do mean that. So now you've kind of got that as an option. So I'm going to go through and edit these blue areas out, change them all into red ellipses. All right, thank you, magic of editing. That's now done, and I've done the same for the math, written language, and oral sections too. So now that we've got this ready to go, what we want to do is we want to grab this whole area right here, all the way down to our oral language section. Be careful not to grab that space at the end. That can give you some formatting problems if you do that. But we are going to go ahead and we are going to save this selection to the quick parts gallery. So first off, we have to decide which category this is, or which gallery we're going to put it in. And I like to save custom 1 for all of the bits of the report that kind of go at the beginning under that background information, like the reasons for referral, the observations, those kind of things. And I like to save custom 2 for things like observations and all that stuff. So yeah, I like to kind of put the actual nitty-gritty of the report. That's going to be about halfway through, so I like to use custom 3 for that. And we're going to create a new category in custom 3 called academic achievement. So I will go ahead and create, so in our custom 3 we'll have an academic achievement section, we'll have a cognitive section, we'll have an adaptive behavior and a social emotional behavior section. You can create building blocks for all of those different things, for all of the different reports that you write. Instead of naming this academic achievement, this is actually just going to be KTEA3. And actually, this was actually my reading intensive version of the KTEA3 that I give. So I actually, in my own report template, I have 3 different little quick parts for this. One for if I've just given sort of the abbreviated battery, one if I've given kind of the full composite battery, and then one if I give very nitty gritty into reading. So you can create as many of these little quick parts as you want, which is pretty great. So I'm actually going to call this KTEA3 reading intensive. There we go. And again, we're not going to save that in building blocks. We're going to save it in psychological report template. And for our options, this one we want to insert into its own paragraph, and that kind of helps us prevent formatting issues later down. So if you want something to be a big block of text, you want to insert it in its own paragraph. If you're just doing kind of one of those small auto text sort of situations, you're going to want to say just insert the content only. But we definitely want to do this one in its own paragraph. So now, again, similarly to that reason for referral thing, anywhere we want, we could even put it in up here if we wanted to. Don't know why we would do that. One thing I did want to show you is that when you're highlighting this, you do, you see how it's kind of wanting to automatically include that final space. If you were to put this in here and go in and add our quick part from our building block organizer in our gallery custom 3, if we were to put in our KTA, you'll notice that we'll have some formatting issues if we enter it this way. And ugh, that looks terrible, right? The reason why that happened is because we included this kind of final leading space here. So what we want to do is we want to make sure and only highlight this much. And then when we enter in our quick part here, like this, we won't have that formatting issue. Although sometimes you still get small formatting issues, like there's no tab here and there should be. But those are pretty easy to fix, and it's definitely a lot quicker to fix those sorts of problems than it is to type out this whole academic achievement section anytime you're writing a report. So yeah, that's basically how you make quick parts, and I definitely recommend them for things like this reason for referral section. You can definitely put them in, like make quick parts for like your observation battery that you typically do, or your observation schedule that you typically do. You can use them for any and all tests. I recommend having at least one quick part, if not several, for them. And then kind of like down here when you get to the bottom, like for example, you can turn your recommendations into these quick parts. So just like all of the recommendations that you have for basic reading skills or for reading fluency, you can make a quick part per skill, and then you can kind of just delete the ones that aren't useful to the particular student. But I found that like has made me have like a lot of different recommendations that I put in reports now. You can also kind of have like kind of boilerplate descriptions of all of your different tests that you give and stick them all here at the end of the report. And it's the only important thing that you need to bear in mind is that when you're exiting out of this, even if you don't want to save this blank document, which I don't, I'm going to hit don't save, but this second dialog box that pops up says you've modified the building blocks, you do want to click save because that's what actually permanently commits those changes that you made to that building blocks organizer. That's what actually saves those into the thing. One last thing that I did want to cover in this video, just so that you're aware, is if you ever want to make modifications to that template, like remember how I said before that like if you open up a new one of these template sort of things from your psychological reports, it's just going to always bring up that same blank thing. It's, I want to make sure that you know how you can make changes to this. And the way that you're going to do that is you are going to go in here and you're going to File, Open, and you are going to navigate to that Custom Office Templates folder, and you are going to File, Open this. And when you do that, you'll notice that what you've got is in this top heading, it'll say Psychological Report Template, not just something like Document 1 or Document 5. So if this top bar says Psychological Report Template and you've opened it through the File Open menu over here, then you can make changes to the report. And like I'm just going to, change this word to hello. And now when I click save, that change is saved to the template. So when I kind of exit out of all of my Word files and stuff like that, if I open Word again and I create a new psychological report template, you'll notice that that word is now changed to hello. And even if I were to change it in here, because it says document 1 up at the top, change that back to report, and even if I save this, and even if I save it like to the desktop, and I save this as, even if I do that, when I come in and create from that template, that change isn't saved. See, it still says hello. So in order to change that, I'm going to have to go to File, Open, browse to my Custom Office Templates, open that psychological report template, and now that I can see that it says psychological report template up at the top, I'm going to change that back to report and hit save, and now that change is permanently saved. So that's how to use quick parts. You can definitely make a lot of your report go easier with that. In the next section, which gets a little bit more technically involved, we do some coding actually, but we're going to kind of learn how to turn those yellow areas, like where it says surname here and where it says name right here, and some of those pronoun fields, we're going to learn how to make those auto update, which again kind of makes things very simple and easy. So stay tuned.